Thank you for joining us today. Rising to Excellence Admin Training provides videos to assist the administrative professional in doing their jobs and managing their lives better. This topic is extremely timely when collectively we are frustrated, angry, and are mourning the loss of family, friends, and coworkers. Finding a safe haven can be challenging, so we hope to be able to give you some new ideas because self-care is more than just taking a long hot bath once in a while. My name is Diana Rockwell, and I will be doing your presentation today. In today's session, we will examine self-care for admins, what to do, how to find the time, and gauge the results. Self-care has come to the forefront since the COVID pandemic hit in 2020, and most of the principles discussed are already well known and have been recommended by lifestyle gurus for several decades. I remember my mother talking about some of these principles back to the 1970s. Pushed off as New Age bunk or hippie ideology, many people dismissed the benefits of doing these things to take care of themselves and labeled them as selfish, inconsequential, and too time-consuming. Many of these people experienced a major health crisis or a mental health breakdown. I would hazard a guess that some of them saw the deterioration of family relationships, hopped between jobs, and always blamed others. In this presentation, we will look at why self-care is so important. We'll look back to see that none of this is new, it's just more important now. We will discover what to do to achieve a better level of self-care, how to find the time, and gauge the results. Let's face it, not everyone's brain is wired the same. Much of what we understand about how the brain functions has changed in the last 20 years, and it has become more acceptable to think differently. We now know that autism affects 1 in 54 children. Dyslexia affects 20% of the population and represents 80 to 90% of those with learning disabilities. It is the most common of all neurocognitive disorders. Often misdiagnosed in years gone by, many children were shuttled off to mental hospitals or made wards of the state if found to be autistic. Others were forced to mainstream without adequate knowledge for handling behaviors, which sets these children up to fail, and we see disturbing evidence of mistreatment every day. Levels of brain function can be stigmatized and dismissed by the mainstream. I often wonder why it's treated differently than if Johnny gets chronic strep throat every year or Susie gets hives when she eats MSG. There's no rationale why Johnny doesn't get hives and Susie, and why she doesn't suffer from strep throat on a regular basis. It's just the way it is. We are all different, and those differences should be celebrated and worked with accordingly and not disregarded. The same goes for how people handle stress, anxiety, worry, and depression. Some may breeze right through crunch time and deadlines, getting a flat tire in the rain on the way to an appointment, or worrying over their child's school grades, while others internalize it or worse, abuse others because of it. In this presentation, we will look at simple ways to alleviate your stress levels with tried and true methods, and maybe some you haven't thought of. The 4 main topics we will be addressing are why self-care is important, what to do, find the time, and gauge the results. Why self-care is important. Self-care is important for several reasons, namely mental, emotional, and physical well-being. When humans are stressed, their body starts telling them in little ways at first. You may start having trouble sleeping. You may have stomach aches or digestion issues. You may develop headaches or fatigue. If those signals are ignored, your body ramps it up to possibly give you acid reflux, chest pains, double vision, or eye fatigue, carpal tunnel or tennis elbow, foot pain, neck pain, or other joint pain. Each person's weak area will be the first hit. Mine is stomach issues and then sinuses. Extended levels of stress raises your hormone cortisol, which makes you gain weight in the torso, can trigger high blood pressure, and a host of other physical ailments like TMJ, jaw and tooth problems. Add that to your already stressed and anxious brain, and you may start making mistakes at work, being short-tempered with coworkers, and start to look for another job thinking it was the job to blame. You develop racing thoughts, reliving events, even hallucinations in order for your body to deal with the stress. These issues can create anger, lose your patience and sense of humor, a quick temper, road rage, resentment, and intolerance for strangers, spouses, children, or pets. You may find yourself closing off to friends and family, isolating yourself, and not enjoying the things you usually do. These are signs of depression, which you want to catch before your thoughts turn suicidal. Those are just some of the bad results of not practicing self-care. The pros of practicing self-care are better sleep, increased focus, and productivity. You'll be happier and have a better attitude, and the ability to maintain your close relationships. While the pro list is shorter, the results are greater. According to bestow.com, in their blog post, 9 Ways to Practice Self-Care at Work, published May of 2020, there are 4 main areas to focus on for self-care at work. Basic best practices, mental exercises, physical exercises, and emotional exercises. Best practices include to take breaks, eat healthy, remove the clutter from your desk and your office, set boundaries, ask for help, and don't let minor mistakes take on Herculean proportions, which can easily happen when you're stretched to the limit and one more thing goes wrong. So what to do? Find what works for you. Mental exercises include doing a crossword puzzle, practice a new language, listening to a podcast or a TED Talk. You don't need to carve out hours in a day for self-care, although a spa day would be really nice once or twice a year. Think about other ways to break your work focus for just 5, 10, or 15 minutes to gain better concentration and clarity to complete your day. Emotional exercises include listening to a meditation or following a guided meditation, listening to music, draw, or color. Just a 5-minute meditation can decrease stress levels and improve overall productivity. You can follow an app like Calm, C-A-L-M, or watch a YouTube video to focus on your thoughts and breathing. In the 1970s, transcendental meditation was all the rage, and the aging hippies, and I remember it well. It was touted as a miracle, but something only a few could master. However, meditation can be as simple as just clearing your mind and rejecting any thoughts that bump in while you breathe deeply at your desk for a few minutes. Try listening to music. 59% of workers say that music boosts their mental state at work. Depending on your work atmosphere, the type of music may be important. In my former position at the financial advisor, it was classical music playing all day. When I moved to a new position, I found I missed it, but in that part-time job in a church office, I didn't feel classical was appropriate. So we chose pop oldies. We played it all day and were confident that none of the lyrics would offend anyone. In my job at the college in IT, it didn't matter what was played. We often played current pop music since it was mainly staff members. We rarely had student visitors. I recently moved to support the Vice President of Marketing Communications, and he oversaw the IT department, which is essentially the same job, just a better title, a bump up in pay, and a few more duties. But I'm now sitting in the presidential suite of offices in the main building to the college that was built in 1890. With its conservative decor, 20-foot ceilings, and real artwork on the walls, it lends itself to a more classical feel. That helps not to offend any donors who may visit. Drawing or coloring is a new trend for adults, and in the last few years, many new sources of material have become available, from coloring books like Irreverent Animal Flatulence to shapes and styles like the Lisa Frank notebooks we all coveted in the 1980s. As for stress, nearly 2/3 of workers feel burnout, and 80% feel stressed at work and want to control it. Stress could be a full-time, full-day seminar because of the vastness of how it's created. Whether from a bad boss, mean coworker, rude customer, or just too much workload, many solutions are available, from zoning out to changing jobs. Today, we will touch on just a few. So what do we do about all the stress, angst, and yuckiness? I've broken areas down by time frame so you can see how much you can fit into your day. The major concern I want to touch on is hand care. Having dealt with hand and wrist pain, it's kind of my torch to bear. With all the typing we do, it's almost inevitable we will develop a repetitive stress injury. And in case you didn't know, there are 5 separate RSIs. Repetitive stress injury is a general term used to describe the pain felt in muscles, nerves, and tendons caused by repetitive movement and overuse. It's also known as work-related upper limb disorder or non-specific upper limb pain. The condition mostly affects parts of the body, such as the forearms and elbows, wrists and hands, neck and shoulders. The symptoms of RSI can range from mild to severe and usually develop gradually. They include pain, aching, and tenderness, stiffness, throbbing, tingling or numbness, weakness, and cramps. At first, you might only notice symptoms when you're carrying out a particular repetitive action. But without treatment, the symptoms of RSI may eventually become constant and cause longer periods of pain. You may also get swelling in the affected area, which can last for several months. The most common is carpal tunnel. The precursor to carpal tunnel is tendinitis. This occurs when the sleeve holding our tendon in our wrist up into our hand feels dried out from overuse. If you've had pain from pulling out a file from a drawer, or pushing the button on the car radio, or picking up a heavy dish or pan, you may have tendinitis. You'll hear store clerks, telephone linemen, and factory workers on an assembly line having it. I developed this affliction some 20 years ago, and basically sat at my desk with my hands in my lap, crying. Any movement was painful. After seeing a doctor, which in my case was a waste of time, I bought wrist splints and wore them at night, which allowed my tendons to heal and rest and rejuvenate. I also discovered that other things I was doing was making my pain worse. I slept on my side and found that I was putting my hand on the mattress, causing it to be at a right angle. Not allowing my wrist to remain straight while sleeping was adding to my pain and injury. By wearing splints at night, I avoided the continual re-injury and allowed them to heal. I also bought a magnetic bracelet that I wore at night, and that helped me as well. Some people have relief from ice or heat, but none from the magnets. There are specific exercises to keep your hands and wrists from being injured from RSI. Another big thing you can do to help is pay attention to your posture. Think back to typing class and sit with your feet on the floor, your back against the chair, and your arms at a 45-degree angles to your keyboard. If any of those are out of alignment, it will affect your body and would cause additional tension between your shoulder blades or in your shoulder joints themselves. If you do any internet search, you should find lots of information on the benefits of proper posture. Many companies will do ergonomic assessments, often through HR, to determine whether you need a different chair, keyboard, mouse, foot riser, or many other items to avoid further injury to your joints. I have a Wave keyboard and an ergonomic mouse that puts my hand on its side, but I can no longer double-click on the mouse to open a file. Microsoft has a great solution, and you can change a setting so one click is all you need to open any file. You need to find the time to take care of yourself. I've broken down segments of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and 15 minutes for suggestions to help. Under the 5 minutes, many TED Talks and podcasts have very short postings of 5 minutes or less. Listening to someone's ideas, suggestions, recommendations, and light bulb moments may inspire you to incorporate them or have your own light bulb moment. People like Brené Brown or Temple Grandin can be very enlightening. Do a short meditation on your own or do a guided meditation. I have trouble visualizing, so guided meditations help me do that. 10-minute suggestions are to start learning a second language. Apps like Duolingo and probably many others can help. Try learning 1 word a day. Doing chair exercises can loosen your body of the muscle tension from sitting and typing all day. We've known about these types of exercises for a couple of decades, but I rarely see anyone doing them, and maybe that's the secret, doing them on the sly. They are still relevant today. Watch or listen to a longer TED Talk or podcast or a longer guided meditation. Maybe target an area you want to work on specifically. I listen to Reiki music for pain, energy, and focus on YouTube. They are plentiful, and if one doesn't help, switch to another. The 15-minute suggestions are to do a crossword puzzle or other types of puzzles, word search, solitaire, etc. Take a walk, even watch funny videos with babies or animals. The baby goats are really cute. Many puzzles can be found online, but I actually prefer a book. It gives me the satisfaction to complete one and find all the solutions. Taking a walk has many health and stress reduction benefits. Being in the grass, breathing in fresh air, and listening to the birds can't be beat. When people talk about being grounded as an adult, not punished as a teenager, it means putting your bare feet on the ground, in the sand, or in the water to bring your spirit back to the basics. YouTube and Facebook are full of videos of laughing babies or crazy animals. Sometimes you just need a couple of minutes to concentrate on something other than work. I often pop onto Yahoo News daily just to see what's happening in the world. That's not stress relieving, but it does change my focus and allows me to physically relax and lower my shoulders. Does anyone remember the movie Barefoot in the Park with Robert Redford and Jane Fonda? It was from the 1960s, and she's sort of a free spirit, and he's a buttoned-up accountant type that get married. It's in the 1960s, and the scene proves this theory about grounding. She wants him to loosen up and enjoy life more, so she takes him to a park and has him take his shoes and socks off and walk around in the grass. It's a nice movie, both funny and touching, about relationships and allowing people to accept each other's differences. If you haven't seen it, look for it. Also in the cast is Maurice Chevalier, who has a great part as the eccentric neighbor. I also knit and crochet along with some other crafty type things. I like the feeling of accomplishment when it's done, and looks good too sometimes. You can do these things at work, some at your desk, not the knitting and crocheting, of course, but even without being called on the carpet by your boss or asked by a cubicle mate what craziness you're doing. The exercises can just look like a little stretch here and there. It may be useful to share why you're doing it if you are questioned, and there should be an understanding if you have a good boss. They should understand the need. Please take your lunch break. Even if you don't eat, which I don't, set a timer for the time allotted and do some personal business, watch a video, run an errand, just something to break up your day. You know better than anyone how your body works, and I know I need the mental break. But if I physically leave my desk for any reason, I struggle to get back into the swing of work. I compartmentalize, and when I leave work, I leave it behind. Years ago, I had a boss who would call me on Saturday morning to find out where a file was or if something had been mailed out. I know some people remember exactly where everything is on their desks, but I am not one of them. I find myself spinning my wheels and going from one thing to another, not getting anything done. It takes an hour or so for me to get back into it, so I avoid physically leaving my desk for an extended amount of time during the day. So gauge the results, and journaling does help. The one thing I strongly suggest is to start a journal when you make these changes to your daily routine. Start writing about feelings and not specifics of the day. It's not an outlet to complain about your spouse or kids or even the mean coworker or the idiot who cut in line or pulled out in front of you on the way home, but to judge your own feelings, attitude, and stress levels. You may want to include how you slept, what you dreamt about, what you ate, how you practiced your relaxation techniques, even include the weather and barometric reading, because I feel that weighs in on this conversation. You may find that you're stuck with some changes, but not others, and that's okay. You need to do what works best for you. Maybe you want to incorporate all the suggestions, and maybe you only want to try one at a time and reject what doesn't feel right and keep what does. Looking back to reflect on how you felt 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago, may be eye-opening. We tend to not see how we change day to day, and those close to us may not notice either. But reading back entries may make it crystal clear. Six months from now, evaluate your self-care routine. Read your journal. Determine if your attitude is better, your mental state is better, are your relationships better? Do you like your job again? Are you making less mistakes? Are you sleeping better? How do you feel? I hope you are able to see the benefits of making some small changes in order to improve your quality of life. If you have any questions or comments, please post them on this video. Interaction with each other and with me is beneficial to developing this presentation and others that you may not see. I want to thank you for your time and input. With increased awareness, you can avoid burnout by taking steps to avoid it. You will find you feel less stressed and short-tempered. Your work will flow easier and your home life will improve. Self-care is not selfish. It's as important as breathing. Thank you for joining us as we examine self-care for admins. As always, be sure to check out our new videos as they become available and look for additional content on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Bye for now.